We're going to look back at last year's top 5 QBs drafted. Now, not the top 5 as far as in their order, but it's top 5 as in how they played this year. So where we start is at let's start at number 1. Let's go right from the top of the list. And I think it for me, you can look at the wins of the team, or you can look at how he improved the team. So for number 1 for me, I got to go Pickett.
Yeah,
I think
me too.
I mean, look, the wins, it didn't translate necessarily into wins. However, later in that season, Pickett had the Steelers in somewhat of a race. You know, from way the season started, he's by far has the most passing yards of anybody in the league, and he's gotten more playing time. But with the struggles that they had, the OC, Matt Canada, not that great. The O-line kind of rough. TJ Watt was out half the season. He was able to keep these guys afloat right off the bat. So he's got to be my number 1. I mean, what do you think of last year?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. He back-to-back game-winning drives. Like you said, all the injuries they dealt with, that secondary was beat up. Like they were really beat up.
Yeah.
And they went toe-to-toe. They beat the Bucs. I know they were kind of a middle-of-the-pack team, but they beat the Bucs. They won a lot of games they weren't supposed to win this year.
Yep.
I'll say I had them pegged at 7-10. I mean, they finished 8-9, or 9-8. Sorry. But they missed the playoffs due to tiebreakers. They were right there with the Lions. They were like, they missed because of a game that was out of their hands.
Yep.
So I love what Pickett did this year. Him and George Pickens, that's going to be a nasty combo for years, and you get Najee there.
And Najee, right.
Like, if you give Kenny Pickett an offensive line, he's going to be a good quarterback. I don't know. Yeah. He's not going to push that top 10, in my opinion. But he'll get to that 11 to 15 range, which is still very solid quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
Like, I really like Pickett in Pittsburgh. I think that's a phenomenal fit, and he played very well this year.
Yeah. And, I mean, look, as we said, he had almost 2,500 yards. He almost threw for 200 yards a game. I know a lot of people, I've talked to people about this, and they say, well, he had 9 interceptions and only 7 touchdowns. There's a lot of stuff that he was having to deal with. You know what I mean? That line, he got sacked 27 times. Like, that line didn't help him out at all. And if you sit there and look at some of those passes he threw, like you talked about Pickens, that one where Pickens is one-handed it over the shoulder and everything, and it's like, woo, he put it right in the spot. Like, I'm just, Pickett has the best upside, in my opinion, especially with that organization. And look, last year, I think it was a precursor to what we're about to see. I feel more confident in that quarterback conversation than I do anywhere in the AFC South right now. I mean, we know Lamar's on that tag, but it's not exclusive, so who knows what happens with him. Deshaun, even though he got all that, he did not look good at all, in my opinion.
No.
You know, and then obviously you got Joe Burrow, and he's going to be, what he's going to be. But at the same time, I mean, the question you could be raised, did Joe Burrow peak? Like, is he only getting up this high?
He's got the massive extension coming, which is it's gonna eclipse $50 million a year, fully guaranteed. And what does that do for the team around him? Because you can build this team while he's on a rookie deal. Once he's getting that money, does Jamar Chase get his money? Does T. Higgins get his money? Do the running backs get their money? Do they finish building this offensive line? Do they keep that defense together? Like, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in Cincinnati there. I think Joe Burrow's he's far and away the best quarterback out of all of them. But like you said, if you're talking the situation, Pickett's in the best situation.
Right. So who's your number 2 from last year?
My number 2, it's tough because, like, Purdy deserves his flowers and everything, but, like, if you're looking ahead, he's probably not the starter. I think they're going to go back to Trey Lance.
Yeah.
I'll throw Purdy here just because nobody else really played. And he played very well.
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't get that elbow injury in the NFC Championship game, I mean, while he was in there, they were losing what, 9-0?
Right.
6-0, something like that. Like, they were still absolutely in that game. And then once they didn't have a quarterback, they fell out of the game. But he was going toe-to-toe with a team that really, when Jalen Hurts was in there, only you guys beat him. I mean, we went toe-to-toe with him week 1, but that's week 1. So, I think Purdy is a solid quarterback. I hope he gets a chance to play again. I don't think it's in San Francisco. I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, in looking at this and from a future perspective, I agree. Like you got Trey Lance, who everybody is touted as the guy, which is crazy if we look back at that draft and see how that fell to fruition. And then you got, the quarterback everybody hates, Jimmy G, and they obviously are interested in potentially shipping him out. And
he's gone,
yeah. And you're sitting here like, Purdy, he took advantage of a situation. He was able to thrive. He had, like you said, had them in the NFC Championship. But can he sustain it? And it's not even can he sustain it on the field. He just might not get that opportunity that he got this year.
Yeah.
How often do you have your top 2 quarterbacks go down with pretty much season-ending injuries? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so and shout out to him. And I guess, as far as where they came from, he was Mr. Irrelevant. And for that, him taking his team all the way to the NFC Championship, I will go with you and put him at number 2 as well. He has the second most passing yards because he's been in there. We've seen what he's been able to do. Yes. But yeah, going forward, I have to agree. Going forward, it doesn't look good. He's going to have to go somewhere else. And I don't know that he has that same success elsewhere, not because he can't do it, but because the situation
be given the opportunity.
Right. He had a good situation that worked themselves out. So moving down the list to number 3, a name that I think was forgotten for me for a while. I'm going to go Bailey Zappi. I'm going to go Bailey Zappi. And the reason why is because of all of these quarterbacks, Bailey Zappi was one of those that, with the exception of the first 2 we talked about, he was one of those that when he got his opportunity, he showed out. He did.
And he beat us up his first game, 29.
And see, that's the crazy part about it, because first of all, it was a crazy move last year when, Belichick picked the quarterback, because we're all like, wait a minute, Belichick picking up a quarterback? And then to get him, now, if you don't know, Bailey Zappi out of Western Kentucky 2 years ago set the record for most passing touchdowns in a year at
61.
Or 61. And then he had 5,900 yards.
Yeah.
It was almost 6,000 passing yards.
All those records from Joe Burrow's best season ever, Zappi beat them.
Yep.
So...
I mean, hey, he had the ability in college. I was very eager a year ago to see where he landed. I love where he landed. It was kind of back and forth with him. Belichick put him in, and he had him in for a while, and then kind of the league caught up to him, and then it was kind of back and forth between him and Mac Jones. What do you think about Zappi here? Like, I like it, but he still has more to prove. I mean, on this list he's there, but he still's got more.
Oh, he absolutely has more to prove. I'll say I preferred him over Mac Jones. I think he's the better of the 2 quarterbacks. I really do. I think it was the product of a Matt Patricia-led offense. That's what happens when you have a linebackers coach run the offense.
Hold on. Let me put the pin in my.
I was gonna say I might have a little bias on that, but no, let me get
my laminated play sheet so I could write with a pencil on it.
Yeah,
this guy.
I think he's a guy that I was pushing for the Lions to take in the 3rd round to be Goff's backup and potential successor. I really liked Zappi from last year's Senior Bowl, and then catching his tape. I was like, this guy could be a problem. Yeah. It's the same kind of scenario as Purdy, where I don't think he's going to get the opportunity, and they're kind of the same player where they don't do anything great, but they're solid at everything. Right. And I hope he gets an opportunity again somewhere. But Belichick sticking to his first-round quarterback, which is a mistake, but it is what it is. We're not Belichick, so
Very true. Very true. And you got to think this man went from Tom Brady to Cam Newton to Mac Jones to Bailey Zappi. Now, Bailey, I'm with you on. Mac, he had a little fire last year. He did a little something. The Cam situation, the fact that Belichick was able to do something with Cam and had them almost in the playoff hunt that year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to doubt Belichick at all. Zappi's got the qualifications. He's got the attributes. Hopefully he gets an opportunity, like you said. Who is your number 4 on this list?
I'm going between Ritter and Willis.
Yeah.
I'll go with. I'm going to take Desmond Ritter.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of the same spot right now where we saw them start a few games. Neither of them really did anything to impress me that much. And I was a little disappointed by Ritter because I was big on him coming out of Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just really didn't do anything when he got to Atlanta. Let's see if he can turn it around because you never really know. But it doesn't look too bright for either of these guys, if you ask me.
Nah, I mean, obviously, there's for the Falcons, the whole Lamar Jackson thing kind of hanging over their head, even though they came out and said, no, we're not interested. But still, to have that over your head, it's kind of, for a guy like Ritter, it's like, oh, well, they're not sold on me. You know what I mean? And I mean, look, you talked about it. 3-year starter out of Cincinnati. We saw he took them to the semifinals and got to play Alabama. Didn't really do much in that game, but my guy Brian Robinson
went toe to toe with Georgia in the bowl game too.
I almost won that one. You know, so Ritter has been around. I too thought he was going to do a little bit more for the Falcons. I was one saying, get Mariota out of there. Get Ritter in. I wanted to see what he can do. But I agree. With the weapons that he had, I thought it was underwhelming. You got Drake London. You got Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson in your backfield. You got Kyle Pitts. I just felt like he was going to do some more. And I thought the offense was going to work well with his skill set. And it was disappointing. It was definitely disappointing for me. So, but I will put him over Malik Willis because I had the misfortune of watching a full Malik Willis game where he didn't throw for 100 yards, and it was just like, oh man. And see, this is where I want us to kind of pump our brakes a little bit on Anthony Richardson because he was another one that raised up in the combine, the Senior Bowl, all those things, and he got moved up, and Tennessee took the shot on him. I thought it was a great move. Tannehill's kind of on his way out. You bring Malik Willis in, but
especially as a 3rd-round quarterback, like
right. It messed with me. It did because I really thought Willis was going to come and show up and show out. So we'll see. Maybe those situations aren't the same because Richardson was from Florida, even though there was a lot of turmoil in Florida. And as opposed to Willis being from Liberty, and little old Virginia. Hey, shout out to him to see. And who else? Is there anybody else on that list? I know Skylar Thompson had his little run in the playoff game against Buffalo, but
went toe to toe with Buffalo in the playoffs there. Yeah. The one I'd like to see compete for a starting spot this year is Matt Corral. I mean, he was my number 1 quarterback in last year's draft. I had him at the top. I loved what he did at Ole Miss. And it was unfortunate that he got injured when he did because he didn't get the chance to compete. Obviously, he's going to have to compete with someone like a CJ Stroud, someone like that. But I'd love to see him get moved to one of these teams where it's kind of an open quarterback competition. Yeah. Let him have that shot. I don't think he's going to get it, unfortunately. Just looking at the quarterbacks from last year's draft, that's really the only other guy. It was kind of a disappointing quarterback class.
It was, and I feel bad for Corral. I mean, obviously he went down, and that quarterback room, they needed help. I think he would have been highly beneficial for them down the stretch last year. I mean, some other names on the list, Kyle Trask, he might get his opportunity this year. We'll see what he's able to do with the absence of Tom Brady. And, hey, this wouldn't be a show, and I wouldn't be Mr. Sean Spencer, Tar Heel faithful, if I didn't shout out my guy. There was not a lot of tape. I left
him for you on purpose.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah, there wasn't any tape. He went in the last game of the year, was able to start against the Dallas team that really didn't have anything to play for. They were already in their playoff seeding. So he showed out. He showed some characteristics that I love. He has the moxie. Mm-hmm. He has that quick decision making. Some of those passes were crisp, but they're on point. At the same time, we had a shot driving down the field, and he threw it into double coverage into the end zone, trying to sneak it to the back of the end zone. And that's where I felt like it's kind of like you're not in North Carolina anymore. Okay, you're not in the ACC anymore. These guys know they can play defense on you, so you're going to have to pay attention to that. But as far as going forward, I think even though Ron Rivera hasn't openly committed to him, he hasn't said he's our number one guy on our roster, but he ain't a starter yet. He could work for that position, and it's kind of like, ooh. But I honestly think with him having that opportunity, we're kind of building things to protect that. I think for him, this next coming year could be something that we do an 8-9 or 9-8. You know what I mean? We still got a couple things on the defense we got to work out, and but our offense, I mean, I'm loving everything that we got with our receiving core, with our running back Eric Bieniemy, our new offensive coordinator. Kind of revamping our coach. I love this. And I don't know if you saw it, but at the press conference with Eric Bieniemy, Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, Sam Howell, all the guys are sitting in the front row like, we're ready. We're ready.
I'm glad we played you guys this past year and not this year. I wouldn't want to play this year, honestly.
That's right. I would have come to Detroit this year. Let's go. But I'm very excited as you see the future of North Carolina, and we'll see what happens after if he potentially comes out in this next year. But I'm really excited to see what Sam Howell brings, and this is the opportunity that I want. Okay, owner potentially leaving, all the cards on the table. Sam, here's your opportunity. We'll go for it. You either save Ron Rivera's job or you're out, and Ron might be out, and we might be totally revamping in 2024.
Bieniemy will probably be the head coach picking his quarterback in 2024 if that's the case.
Exactly. Which is interesting because then you start looking at next year's draft, and you got Hartman and you got Caleb Williams. I mean, we don't want to play crappy.
Potentially JJ McCarthy. There's a lot of quarterbacks next year.
Right. So, and hey, shout out to my guy, Sam Howell. Hopefully he does the best. I want him to be that next guy. I want him to be the solid guy that sticks with us and we can take this thing down the line. But realistically thinking, there's a lot of turnover in Washington, not only with the owner, but potentially with the head coach, a couple other coaches. So this is a prove it year. This is the opportunity that you want. You get a full off season. You're going right into the regular season. Let's see what he can bring to the table, man. Let's see what he can bring to the table. Yeah, buddy. Oh, man, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do this because you've been in the comments the whole time. When do you think the NFL will issue expansion teams? St. Louis deserves an NFL team. They had one.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to.
Now, St. Louis is one of the places they've been discussing. They've been discussing 4 places for a few years now. It's St. Louis, Portland, I believe was one, San Antonio, and Toronto.
Let's go.
They've been talking.
I need to go to a Canadian game.
Oh, I would go. I'd go across the country to go see that game.
I'm all about that. Let's go. Bring the NFL to Canada, baby. Let's go. I'm with that.
Thanks for watching. If you like that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.